as well as you know, symbolism, and my dissection of the Tree of Life, my dissection of tarot, symbolism related to the Kabbalah, symbolism related to different interpretations of the Tree of Life, different repurposing of the Tree of Life from different systems. Pretty much anything that I've ever said, done, written since he's been in my life in a way that I never invited him in. That stuff has appeared around me, which, you know, normally I guess in a different circumstance, if I didn't know his character, if I didn't know who he was, if I didn't know that he was incredibly exploitative, if I didn't know that he has been amassing some sort of wealth by way of exploiting all of these things from me without even ever asking for my permission, as well as searching through the trunk of my car for books that my own research that he had no right to search through. At least I'm certain that he gave himself the legal right to do that, but he had no right to do that. He never spoke to me about it, never asked my permission. He just did it. And the reason why he did it is because he wanted to know what I knew. And he wanted to know what I knew so that he could go exploit information that he just decided he had a right to exploit. He just decided he had a right to accessing it from my own property without ever speaking to me, so that he could go be a politician, or so that he could go be some sort of an important figure in the world to whoever would listen to him, instead of just respecting the fact that that is something that I was building, that is something that I was doing. And the fact of the matter is Dave Withers is a man who is unfit to represent that information, to effectively utilize that information in any way that is, in any way that is actually about carrying any sort of responsibility or power in the world that he could utilize to control others, or utilize to make decisions for others in large swaths, or in ways that affect people's lives severely, or in any circumstance like that. And I mean, I can run down the list of why that's the case again. In fact, I will, just so that exists within this video as well, contextually. The laundry list, as usual, of lying to a woman about having a vasectomy, and then that woman becoming pregnant, and he abandoned her, and he abandoned his own child in that circumstance. The last time that he spoke to that child, his daughter, my ex-wife, as a child, was when she requested that he show up to a therapy appointment when she was very young, and he did not do that, and didn't speak to her again until she was an adult, until she was in her late 20s, early 30s, late 20s with me. He spoke to her initially as an adult by way of their initial conversation being about, getting to know each other, getting to know her, in which she divulged information about something that she struggled with. And his response was incredibly, effectively she told him about her existing bulimia, and her struggles with her bulimia, and his response was, You're bulimic. Do you need help losing the weight? These are all circumstances that are true and happened, and either built up incredible anger and justified mistrust and justified judgment from me in him. All of these things took place. Before my divorce happened, I spoke to him multiple times. When he was lying to me about having any sort of communication with my ex-wife, his daughter. And it wasn't just that he taunted me about things that were important to me, effectively trying to make an enemy, because he was. But eventually, he started pretending like he was losing connection to some of the phone calls that we were having when we were speaking about subjects that he didn't get the answer that he wanted or that he knew how to deal with emotionally, to the point where he would fake losing reception and then hang up on me. And then when I would call him back, it would ring and ring and ring and then go to voicemail normally, as if to say he was just ignoring the call and pretending like he had lost reception still, which wasn't the case. He just hung up on me. There was another instance where he straight up said to me after the divorce was filed if I felt better, if I was, effectively he was asking if I was relieved to be divorcing. And I said no, and then I was heartbroken, and his immediate response was, "You know, John, I have to go." And then he hung up on me. After the divorce took place, he tried to take credit for Patricia, my ex-wife's mother's success in her career path and choosing her career paths after he abandoned her for 30 years with no contact, no financial support, no emotional support, nothing. Never said a word to her, never said anything to her, and he tried to take credit for all of her success in life. After the divorce, one of the conversations that I had with him was one where he called into question his own valuation of his daughter, my ex-wife, where effectively, we were initially talking about how I was dealing with the divorce, my concerns, my perspective on the divorce. And one of the things he said during that conversation was effectively within the context of me saying that I was concerned for my ex-wife in some ways, just about how the divorce was traumatic for both of us, and I was concerned for her, and how it was going to affect her. And with some with some details removed, effectively what he communicated to me was, "I love my daughter, but," and what he was trying to say was, he said that after he said that he thought that she was bad for me, which was interesting considering the fact that at that point he completely denied having any communication with her to me, but he still said that to me, that he thought that she was bad for me. The three of us never spoke about our relationship, about my ex-wife and I's relationship. We never spoke about it, not together. He never spent time around us beyond the two instances where we ate dinner with him, which was years and years before, and we hardly spoke about much. But he still saw it fit to say that he thought that my ex-wife was bad for me, and he still saw fit to say that effectively he loved his daughter, and what he was contextually saying was he loved his daughter, but he didn't understand or feel very close to her or something along those lines. He didn't understand her. He didn't understand her actions that he didn't speak about beyond that, beyond saying what he said. He also insulted the person that my ex-wife started dating after the divorce. Within the same conversation. And to my knowledge, he never even spoke to this guy. In fact, he said, I looked him up on Facebook and I saw that he was a recovering alcoholic. He's no winner, is what he said, based upon looking up a man's social media profile. This was probably a month after the divorce, maybe 2 months. And no, this was about a month after the divorce, or a couple weeks after the divorce, and my ex-wife had only just started seeing him. And yet, he felt it fit to judge this man pretty harshly, based upon looking at his Facebook profile and nothing else. He tried to frame me with the coloring book in my own home. He tried to frame me with the coloring book in my own home because he was trying to effectively, I believe, the only thing that makes sense to me was he was trying to effectively frame me as some sort of child predator, and that he was going to have the cops show up at my house to search the vicinity and then find a coloring book tucked away in my fireplace, and then probably pull me in for questioning about it and whatever else, even though I didn't, it was a frame job. And he has a history, I spoke about this before, about his history with having some sort of issue with, an actual issue with that within his family years before, an actual issue with somebody being a child predator in some way within his extended family before, many years before this happened, many years before he tried to frame me with the coloring book. I fled my rented cabin in paranoia eventually after the frame job and learning about it. And I crashed my car when I was driving through San Diego. And I was driving through the area to visit a friend of mine who I had never met before, while I was trying to sort out what my next, where I wanted to live after that, because I didn't want to continue to live in the same place, because I didn't feel comfortable living there after a certain point, because I was certain that he was going to try to have somebody attempt to frame me again. So I left without saying a word to the people that I rented from. But my rent was paid for the following month, and my obligation financially was taken care of. I didn't leave them high and dry. They had a full month's rent and everything else. But in the context of that, fleeing the cabin, I actually crashed my car in San Diego, California, unfortunately. And I ended up sleeping at my friend's house for about 6 months. 2 weeks of that, I slept in the backyard in a tent that I purchased when I had bought a bunch of survival gear years before, after I had predicted what became of the COVID virus about 5 or 6 months before it actually struck. I purchased a bunch of survival gear for my ex-wife and I, just in case we needed to leave and go live in the forest. I had that tent in the trunk of my car for a long time, even before the divorce, just in case my ex-wife and I needed to get out of the house that we lived in quickly and drive away quickly, as well as a bunch of other survival gear. I'm going to stop this recording because I'm out of time, and I'm going to keep talking.